Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago, and Happy New Year, and welcome to 2021 Scoreboard. It's always a pleasure, and let me first of all take time out to thank all of you, the supporters and the friends of Scoreboard, who have contributed and who have always, well, you know, wherever I meet you all will give me some good comments and things like that. I want to say thank you all, and I look forward to having you all with me for the remainder of 2021, and we hope that COVID will disappear someday soon and we'll be back to normal out there on the field with sports and getting involved in all that we used to do before 2020. Again, Happy New Year to all my loyal supporters of this show. She's back. Yes, she's back. My co-host, all the way back from Russia. Finally, she's back with us. Let me introduce Maria Thomas. Maria, it's a pleasure and welcome back.
Thank you, George. Thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be back.
Yeah.
I very much appreciate it, knowing how difficult it has been getting back and that journey.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to be here. I'm excited to talk about the things that I've learned, especially to talk a little bit about what TTRFU has planned. And definitely being back is a big part of being able to do that.
It's been a whole year.
It's been longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Well, continue.
Well, first and foremost, I would like to say a very happy new year to Trinidad and Tobago on behalf of the TTRFU. The TTRFU has been obviously affected the same way that all other sports have been, and I know that it has been a difficult year for everyone and very difficult for our members, wondering what is happening next, wanting to have some sort of information to be able to make plans, to be able to move forward, to know when we can play and what sort of things we're going to be able to participate in. And as we know, things look one way and then so quickly they can change and look another way. Right now, the priority is everyone's health, everyone's welfare, and taking care of this situation. However, it's not all negative. And one of the things that we've experienced is that we do have this opportunity to sit back and say, all right, when we don't have the pressure of an immediate tournament, when we don't have the immediate pressures of the games, how can we use this time to build the necessary infrastructure, the necessary administrative skills, the necessary policy and procedure to move forward so that when we are able to resume play in whatever form that may take, that we're not catching ourselves on the same snags that were happening before for things that were perceived as being less urgent.
So what is the plan going forward with the Federation?
So moving forward, we were not able to hold our AGM in 2020. So that is something that currently there are discussions because our 2021 AGM will be held before the end of April of this year. So with the AGM coming up, there will be positions available, including my position as well. So we're looking to the community to continue to interact and to be prepared for that AGM. And especially from this point now, that interaction is very important both ways. So from our membership as well as from the executive in communicating the things that we have been doing during 2020 so that that meeting can be productive. People have the information so that coming out of it, we are moving forward in whatever way that that may take form.
So there is absolutely nothing happening. Well, I know they said that they had they were allowing national teams to train, right? I know. What about the national teams, national rugby teams? Are they in training? What is happening?
What we have had throughout 2020 is our athletes who have taken it upon themselves to continue their training and to stay ready. And it's something that I found very inspiring to be able to see the work that our national athletes have been doing, even our club athletes. We did get some new youth teams, and they have built really good culture where they've supported each other. There have been challenges that went on. Some Athletes have improved their fitness very, very visibly, as well as using social media platforms to motivate, encourage, and support others to do the same. Within the restrictions, of course, there are some trainings going on, but because of rugby being a contact sport, a team sport, the number of athletes that we need to have together in a space, we have not had any national training. Everything that's going on needs to comply with
But is
the
there any
restrictions.
national or international tournaments that rugby will be taking part in for 2021?
For 2021, our region is looking at the restructuring of some of our competitions.
Okay.
However, as far as making announcements for dates and things like that, again, we're not sure what's happening. We also have to look within Trinidad and Tobago at where we are presently, financially, as teams training together. Rugby is also a sport where you need to be training, and you need to be training in contact before you can enter into these competitions for player welfare. So it's not to say that we would have had no contact and then suddenly, okay, we have an opportunity, we can play now and jump into that. That's not something that is supported by rugby, because our bodies need to be trained appropriately to be able to do what is required of us on the field. So what we're looking into is how do we continue rugby, and in what formats are going to be appropriate in the conditions we're in now. So there are options like tag rugby, there are options with non-contact options, using different flags is something that can be used, playing with a number of players on a team. So we've been playing sevens, which is a lower number. Beach rugby is fives. So there are a lot of ways that we can look at saying, okay, how do we continue building our community, building that sporting connection that we want to feel, but making sure that we're safe. There are many ways that you can work on rugby skills without actually having a game. 2020 has also been a year where we focused on a lot of training. So it started off great. We had Scott Harling and Erin Kennedy come from RAN.
Yes, I remember. Yeah, she was.
I remember watching on the show. Yes, that was really great. And it was very well received. We have a community now of youth who are really hungry for knowledge. They're hungry to give back. They want to play. They want to be involved. And they've reached a stage where they can ask themselves, how can I contribute to making the community and being a part of this community in the way that I would like to, and in a way that builds the community. And this is something that has actually continued to build throughout 2020. The World Rugby Passport site has a number of courses. They're online certificates, and they are prerequisites for these in-person training sessions that can be done for official qualifications from World Rugby. The TTOC has also offered a number of courses which they modified into an online format. And I must say I've been very grateful for these opportunities, because even though I have not physically been here, I have been able to train and continue learning things, not only in the master's program in Russia, but also within programs that are offered locally with my colleagues, both in rugby and in other sports here in Trinidad and Tobago. Coming out of that, we've had a number of people who have stepped forward, who have volunteered their time. They have asked where can they be of service, or they have said, here's something that I'm interested in working on. How do we make this happen? And this has happened at the level of coaching. This has happened with committees, which I think is very important and is exciting for moving forward in the TTRFU, where this building has been happening. And again, this is something that would be addressed in the AGM for making decisions coming from the membership. But we already have that initial boost that we need. Particularly, there is a group that has been focusing and looking at some marketing options for us. And we've also been a part of a program, a pilot program, coming from World Rugby and via RAN for safeguarding. And this is a program that is endorsed by World Rugby. It has been launched in other areas. And we have some of our countries within this region who are going through this training process. And it's very practical. It's very current. It's dealing with the issues that we deal with now. And to make sure that for our entire community, it is a safe and productive space. So we also have members of our community who step forward and are being very instrumental in participating in that. And we will see coming forward how that work will be implemented to improve the entire community.
Okay. So I am sure that the Federation is not really, it's basically have all their plans in place that should restrictions be lifted, you all could start running full steam ahead with, local competitions.
So we have been working on a strategic plan, and the late Carl Seymour, our vice president.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it was really a loss for our community, and he's been integral in pushing that forward in a very pragmatic way. Personally, even before he came on as the vice president, he was someone who I could call and I could lean on his experience and expertise, being someone who did not have as much experience and expertise. And he always made himself available, always was able to maybe word something in a different way or give me a scenario so that I could understand the processes that were happening so that my contributions could be productive. And his work that he's done with the committee, with the membership, is something that, yes, we have a number of KPIs, we have a number of things that we're going to move forward with. And part of that is being supplemented by this communication that's happening with the clubs, with the membership, who are either already in positions where they are preparing to launch things, or they are now asking the question, they're coming forward, they're sending the emails, they're making this communication to say, okay, we want an update. We want to know what is coming next, and we want to know what part we have to play in that.
What's the feedback from the clubs? How are they taking this whole COVID period and not being able to play the sport that they really love? What's the feedback from them? So what we're experiencing now is a bit of a culmination of something that was already coming. It's the worst case scenario, but it's something that clubs have been experiencing over the years now. We have had a decline in participation. We have had a decline in what we've been able to do internationally. We have had teams, our senior men's 15s has not participated. There was a year that the under 19s missed as well, the women's 10s. Last year, the under 19s and the women's 10s self-funded to make sure that they could attend the tournament in Barbados, and that was successfully accomplished. However, it's something where we really need to look at ourselves and say, what is it that we want to accomplish, and how do we make it happen for ourselves rather than waiting for someone else to make it happen for us. From a governance standpoint and looking at the entire union and what the union has as goals for rugby in the country, it's a long-term plan. It's a huge plan, right? However, you have individuals who want to play now, or you have coaches who are like, this is a training that I've done and I want to use it. We've been implementing some of the things and the strategies from long-term athlete development, which is one of the courses that I've done while I was away. So that was... We'll chat all about that.
We can get onto that, but the importance of some of those things that are offered is recognizing that in each stage, those people are feeling pressure, a time pressure of how they can contribute and how they can reach their goals. With what's happening in the cancellations for 2020, big one, the Olympics. Imagine being an Olympian and saying, okay, but how do I get to compete if I have to wait 4 more years for another chance?
And maybe at this year, you were at the age where you're not going to make another.
What if this was my last chance? And I think that it's important to channel that energy and to say, how do we channel that energy, understanding that we're building a bigger picture for longevity, but still making sure that at each stage our participants are satisfied.
Well, is there anything, before we take our break and get into that part where we're going to talk about the scholarship and what is, how it will benefit you and what's next for you, is there anything that you want to share with the viewers and the public, with the sport of rugby, you know, because the supporters are there. They're not seeing anything, they're not hearing anything, you know. But you might be privy to, you know, meetings with the federation and things like that.
What I would like to do is to thank the rugby community. I would like to thank them for their patience and also for their impatience. I appreciate that there are people who want to see change and who are willing to contribute personally to that change, and that is so important. And I'm also grateful that there has been so much understanding about what has been happening. So my hope is that at this point right now, we are ready to put ourselves in 100%. As I mentioned, the AGM is upcoming. We have a timeline of
And
things.
you're going back up for...
Pardon me?
Are you going back up to be...
Yes, I will be running to maintain a position on the executive. Returning to Trinidad and Tobago was a major part of that. I don't think that it was fair for me to ask the community to continue to support, not knowing when I could return home. I went away to work on skills and to bring that back here and contribute here. So this is why it's so huge for me to actually be able to be sitting in this chair right now, is that I was able to return. Thank you to everyone who supported that journey, which was a big one. So that, yes, I can back up anything that I want to work on physically in every possible way. And part of that is some of the things that we've been working on behind the scenes. I would ask the membership, check your emails, check our social media accounts, follow up, because the AGM that will be upcoming in the first quarter of this year is going to be an important one. And there's a timeline. We're looking at some rebranding. We're looking at a lot of things. 2022 will be our 100-year anniversary. So 2021, no matter what happens,
You're going to prepare for 2022.
we're preparing for that 100-year anniversary. And I know our president, Colin Peters, has been working very hard on achieving a home for rugby. He's discussed it here. And I know that is something that he definitely is continuing to work on. And for that 100-year anniversary, we're hoping to say we have somewhere to celebrate that.
Well, we're going to take our first break, and when we come back, we're going to dive all into your experience in Russia and the scholarship and what it meant to you and what that is going to bring to the sport of rugby. Viewers, we'll be right back. Remember, she's back, Maria Thomas. We'll be right back after this short break. Welcome back, viewers. Welcome back. You're viewing Scoreboard on ACTN. As I said before, my co-host Maria Thomas was abroad for basically an entire year. She was awarded a scholarship in Russia. She left, and due to the COVID, that prolonged everything. That's why we missed her for an entire year. But what we're going to do now is to try to pick little pieces together now and talk to Maria and find out what this scholarship was, how was it obtained, and what has it done for you and for the sport of rugby?
All right, so from a personal perspective now, this year has been exceptional. So as part of my personal growth and being able to give back to the rugby community, I am incredibly grateful for the opportunities that have been afforded to me to develop skills and to have experiences. Because it's one thing to have credentials and it's another to actually have the experiences. And it's another to have experiences that you can apply in different areas. So this program, which is a professional master's of sports administration, was offered by the Russian International Olympic University. This is something that TTOC actually recommended that I apply for this program. And I'm very grateful that they did. It was definitely something that was a leap. It was kind of filling out the application and sending it and thinking, what will I do with 10 months in a country that, you know, I will have a language barrier. The program was offered in English, but of course, it's a lot of changes and a huge commitment. Also considering my position as Secretary of the Union, I had to weigh out what are the benefits of taking a program where I won't physically be here. The timing of it worked, that my national duty as a national player and also the busiest time that we have as far as an executive would have finished, and then I would be back within a month of it resuming. Right? And I would have an AGM that I would hope to attend remotely. However, as we know, plans didn't work out like that, and my expected return in June was very much postponed. As far as that experience, it's something that has made me reach a little bit further, and I think is very important because we take for granted what is physically close to us. And in the process of returning here, it was very interesting to see how much that affects your community and your immediate relationships and work that you're doing, depending on where you are in the world. So we now have this option that we can tune in from anywhere, as long as we don't need to keep a strict sleep schedule. But you can tune in from anywhere. But there is still a connection that's felt when you're physically in the same place, even if you're not physically in the same room. Even if that means of communication is still electronic. And it was very interesting to experience that. Also, to experience how much can be done when it feels like you can't do anything. So as far as networking, finding like-minded people, learning about other people's journeys, seeing what having a complete stop to the things that you expect, it shakes everyone up. When you can say, oh, well, you know, the wheels are still turning, things are still going, it's fine, we're going to go with the flow. That's one thing, but when the flow stops, you really have to look and say, well, what was the flow? And when we restart that flow, is it going to look the same? Is it going to look different? And how do we prepare ourselves so that it's not just without direction going wherever you're pushed? And I think that this was a really good opportunity for that. And the studies that I was doing over the past little bit over a year now really contributed to that.
What was the whole program all about? And if you could go into details, like, you know, different aspects of it.
So a Master's of Sports Administration was looking at the administration in a way that I would compare to a microcosm of what happens within an organization. I think that this program is excellent for the experience that is required to govern and to be instrumental within an organization.
Now, is it only directed around rugby, or it's general sports?
No, it's an Olympic program, and therefore it's for Olympic sport, but all sport. The lessons that we learn are applicable there. This program as an accelerated professional master's is great because the pressure is on. It's very similar to what you have to do in administration of an organization, because we didn't have 3 months, 6 months, a year, the amount of time that may be designated in a different style program to each module. We had a new module every week, a new professor every week, a new teaching style, new methods of assessment. So we were always having to stay on top of things. Depending on what the assessment module was, we might have an essay that from this module is due in 3 weeks. But then we have other modules that we have to look at. And what you find in an organization here is that you know that you have multiple things that need to be managed together, but how do you dedicate the time that's required to being proficient in each one when it's rolling over into the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, with everything being interconnected. I liked that the professors were all experts in their field, coming from their departments all around the world. And it made me realize that this program is able to be carried out in the way it is because you're bringing in these expertise from these different places, from these different departments, specific to each module. I think one of the things that happens here sometimes is about who you have as a volunteer, who you have willing. We'll acknowledge that there are many different reasons that this happens, but you end up looking to one group of people, or sometimes even one person, and you're expecting that all of those different elements are going to be achieved to the extent they need to be. Meanwhile, it's too much for one group or one person to accomplish. And one of the things that I think we will be able to see applied here, in line with what some of the strategic plan objectives are, is forming new committees, repopulating committees that we already have, and understanding that each of those committees is now going to be like each of the professors that we had in the different modules.
Yeah.
Which each committee is going to have a designated role that would be understood, and that's their focus. And many things work together within the union, but they're not always without conflict. If we have a certain amount of funds available, and I am the coach of one team or the manager of one team, my prerogative is to get those funds and those resources for my team. However, you, as a coach of another team or the management of another team, you have the same agenda, but we are in conflict, even though we are together. Now, if we take that and we spread that throughout the community, you see that each entity needs to have representation to be fair. So at the end of the day, everyone is not going to be fully satisfied.
You'll always have that in anything that you do.
But everyone should have the opportunity for representation. If we look at some of the things that have happened in World Rugby, and there have been some very controversial issues, and through the World Rugby Scholarship, I'm now part of this amazing network where I've been able to experience the peace of mind that comes with knowing that you are well represented. And there were instances where I was glad that it didn't come down to me to make a decision, knowing that it is a difficult decision to make, but feeling confident because I knew the people there were going to represent to the utmost, as though it was their own person, their own family that was being represented. And I would like to foster that within Trinidad and Tobago, because I know that we have so many people who are excited and who are invested and who are personally seeing themselves growing in this sport and contributing to the community and building that trust, building that knowledge that we are all there for each other, even though as individuals, we do have a mandate, and this is what we're fighting for the best case scenario for our project that we are working on, for it to be the best that it can be.
So you have already hit the ground running with what you have gathered from this whole scholarship?
Yes.
In what direction?
So coming from RAN, I mentioned it briefly, there is a safeguarding project that's happening now. So that was something that I was very happy to be able to advocate for as the Secretary of the Union. And of course, personally, I am very glad to be able to participate in it. I am grateful that our community is responding well as far as people who have stepped forward and have volunteered to contributing to what happens. What I find in many cases is you can have all the objectives, all the paperwork, all the ideas, but if I was to say, all right, I put my hand up to do safeguarding and I keep that process to myself, it doesn't mean that I'm not successful in the process, but how does that affect the community? How does that affect someone who actually needs the service that's provided by a safeguarding program? So that's anyone in the community. So I really believe that all the work that I have done and the lessons that I have learned have continued to point me in the direction that we need to operate as a community. We need to take the opportunities that I have had and say, okay, but how do we do this within Trinidad and Tobago? Another project I'm very excited to be working on with World Rugby is the Captains Project. And right now this is going along with, it works in with the Unstoppables campaign for women in rugby, which we've seen a lot of on social media. It's a very successful campaign. And the Captains Project is helping to bolster that database of captains in women's rugby. Specific to our region, there's a deficiency in information and documentation of who's been there. So I've been working with unions, including Trinidad and Tobago, getting those names, those lists, so we can create this database and this network, which is going to be another network similar to the one with the scholarship recipients. So, okay, we have our network. How do we give this to more people? And sometimes it's not necessarily that an individual can be part of all the networks. I have never captained a team. So in that capacity, that's not my network.
Yeah.
But I recognize that captains can benefit from the same things that I'm receiving being a part of the network that I am a part of. So I'm excited to see how this connects our region in particular, but also globally. And there are events, there's a lot planned for it. So look out for that launch.
So I'm listening to you, and I'm getting from you that you're not only going to be working locally, but throughout the Caribbean and the world of rugby. Am I correct?
So the work that I've been doing is throughout the region and throughout the globe.
Okay.
And what I'm looking at is the benefits that I'm receiving from having that opportunity. That makes me stronger and better equipped to contribute within Trinidad and Tobago, which is my primary goal. So I want everyone to have access to similar resources. Sometimes that's scholarships, sometimes it's being able to be a part of a course online, a workshop online, and sometimes it's having a network that you know you can reach out to someone who has had similar experiences to you, who has had similar responsibilities placed on them, and they've been entrusted with these responsibilities, that you can reach out to them and have these similar experiences. And sometimes I think that it's difficult because you want to put your best foot forward. You want to make sure that you're presenting yourself as being capable, competent, confident, but that doesn't mean that there aren't issues, that there aren't struggles, that there aren't times when you say, I'm really grateful that I have a mentor that I can reach out to who can say, don't worry, I see you, and it's going to be okay. Or tell me what are the 3 things that you need right now to be able to continue. Did you think about doing it from this perspective or in a different way? And that is very important for being able to continue and be in it for the long run. So that's a skill actually that is important to develop, because so many times we see people burn out because they're giving it everything. They care so much. We like to say they care too much. They don't care too much. It's just that the way that they are caring and presenting themselves is not sustainable for them. And so it's having a network that helps you to sustain yourself and to teach you those skills.
I know we have to take another break in a while, but when I come back, I want to talk a bit about all that you have discussed here. It seems that your plate is filled.
It's very full.
You are still active in the sport of rugby. So how are you going to be planning all this together with getting back onto the field, which I know you love, and also being part of the other projects that you have in store?
Part of that is just recognizing what my skill set is and what I have to offer. What am I really good at? And that is what I will contribute. Something that I am guilty of being caught up in is because I want to help, whatever is necessary, I try to do it. And sometimes I'm not good at that thing.
But you just want
I'm the worst person maybe to do
but
that
you just
thing.
Want to help.
But you just see this thing and you're like, okay, well maybe I'll just try, right? And what I'm working on, have been working on, is recognizing people that have those skills that I don't have, right? And hopefully they're passionate in that area and saying, okay, well, can you assist in this? Are you comfortable with doing this, right? And also remembering that when people put up their hand and say, okay, I'm willing, or even more so when you ask someone and they say, yes, I'm willing, that willingness shouldn't be taken for granted, and it shouldn't be pushed further than necessary.
Yeah.
If I come and I say, I have this much money I can put towards it, I have this many hours I can put towards it, I have this knowledge I can put towards it, whichever thing I bring, understand that that is the offering.
Yeah, don't push for more.
And work with that. Because if I just have the time, but I'm asked for the money, I'm going to get stressed out because I don't have the money to give. That's going to affect how my time is spent. My time is going to be less valuable because when I come, I'm thinking about the stress and the pressures of the things that I cannot give rather than just focusing on what I can.
All right, we need to take another break. When we come back, we'll continue this discussion. So again, viewers, you are viewing Scoreboard. We're talking to Maria Thomas. She's back. So we'll be right back. Welcome back, viewers. Welcome back to Scoreboard on ACT. And if you missed any part of this program, you can tune in tomorrow. There's a repeat at 1 p.m. Maria, you are still very active in the sport of rugby.
Yes.
You are a national player. You are a club player. Well, right now there isn't any rugby playing, so you have all the time in the world to do all your Zoom meetings and all your different projects. When everything is open up, how are you going to be coping?
Personally, what I would like to see is that we're preparing for a worst case scenario. Because I don't want to spend another year waiting to be able to do things because I want to do it a specific way. I think that we all lose out as a community if we say, okay, well, we're not going to play rugby until we can have full contact rugby. So I am really excited about some of the different ways that we've been able to keep rugby alive. Now, for me, rugby, yes, it's a physical sport that you play with your teammates on a pitch. However, it's also a lot more than that. It's the community that's built around it. It's the different values that we have. It's a lifestyle. And that's one of the important things about rugby, and it's something that has continued throughout not being able to play rugby. So that's something that keeps me motivated personally, and that I look forward to saying, if we could be this involved, or if I could be this involved, you know, acknowledging that not everyone has the same level of involvement. How do we carry this over so that when we can play, that we are also taking all of these things as well? It's going to bolster our experience of rugby. It's going to be more than what we had before, because we're taking this community and these things that we've been able to do together, and then we're having everything where we can be together, we can be on the field, we can resume training. And I think the athletes that I've seen and their training and work that they've done, I'm really excited to see when we're able to physically train again, because when you work on your own, sometimes it's hard to mark your progress. And it's something that I've seen in rugby players in Trinidad and Tobago and elsewhere, and also in other sports, where I know when athletes come and they get back into the training routines, they're going to have that marker because they're remembering where they were the last time they played rugby, which for us was 2019. So I'm excited to see how that plays out and how that feels when people hit the grass again.
There are two players that I'm really amazed with because I see a lot of their progress on Facebook. It's Kathleen and it's Kathleen Stevens, isn't it? And Jack.
Fiola Jack, yes.
Yeah. They have been going at it and they constantly post their training, and you're seeing that those are two athletes who you can see are fit.
Yes.
You know, and that's something I every time I look at it, I say, yeah, they are really, really committed to the sport. Because I'm sure that all around there are sports men and women who ain't really doing anything. They're waiting until everything is lifted, then to get back, right? And what they are doing, it shows you that they definitely are committed to the sport.
And there will be a huge advantage for them when play resumes.
Yeah.
Because they're actually going to be ahead of where they were when they stopped playing.
Exactly.
Anyone who just maintained is going to be that much further behind. Anyone who didn't maintain is going to be kind of out of the game completely. Also recognizing that when we return to play, there are other opportunities as well. So staying in the shape they have and keeping that focus and publicizing the work that they're doing.
It's a form of motivation for other players too.
It's motivation for other players. It also is going to draw in other opportunities. So I think that some international tournaments, private tournaments as well, club tournaments, I think that that's something that we're going to see maybe even before we see the international tournaments, whereby players who have stayed ready are going to have an opportunity to join a team. So they can travel once that's allowed within the restrictions, within making sure that we're safe, whether it's being tested, whether it's quarantining, but that they're in a position to take the opportunities to play. And that will put them further ahead again, because as we know, playing experience, actually getting those games, getting the experience with different teams and different athletes is so important, and it translates into much more success on the pitch when we come together as a national team.
I know that when you came back, you had to go into quarantine and all that. How was that experience?
Which quarantine would you like to know about?
Well, I know you did one here, you did a couple abroad, so I think you...
I've done 6 weeks.
Yeah, I think you have the record.
Of quarantine.
You have the
I've done 3 separate government-mandated quarantines, totaling 6 weeks.
That's where, from when you left Russia.
From that time, I have basically lived in a state of isolation, so not even within the restrictions, I have to further restrict, because at any point that I have exposure, that means that the next leg of the trip is going to be deterred. Like I can't go forward. So it was actively 3 months to return to Trinidad when I realized that, okay, waiting for the border to open is not going to, it's not the plan of action that's going to work. So yeah, that's a lot of quarantine, a lot of isolation, many tests. I've had 6 negative tests. I've learned now to make sure that I am keeping myself safe. I've been in situations where there are different levels of restrictions, where I'm the only person who's wearing a mask, who has, I've got my spray thing, I can spray my hands, I can give it to everyone I'm with, because I know that for the objective that I have and my goals, I need to stay negative and I need to get back to Trinidad and Tobago. And that's something that the last 3 months, well, where are we now? We're in January, so, it was top priority. And I've experienced it's doable. And I would like to see some of the things that we are doing continue. So if we do that, then whatever comes at us, we're better prepared. It's not just thinking about what I want to do, but it's thinking, especially from a team sport mentality, we have to think about everyone's well-being. I can spray my hands when I go out and wear a mask, but if I'm out with my friends, my teammates, with someone else, and I'm not taking the same level of care with them, well, I'm still exposed and they're exposed. And if they're sick, then we can't lie. So, any way you look at it, it's something that we should do. And I think that as individuals, it's pretty simple. If you stand by that for yourself, for me, it was easy because I knew I didn't have an option. Like, I'm sorry, you cannot give me COVID at all, right? And when we do that, you'll find that the people around you will say yes. There are people who maybe didn't have as high a concern, but when I made it known that this is the level that I am going to operate on, when it says we're wearing masks, we're wearing masks. So it doesn't matter if in an area that's not what everyone else is doing. And friends that I was with, they say, okay, well, yes, and wear the mask and follow and respect the fact that I need to be in a condition that I can be safe.
Are you back in the training as yet?
Oh, well, thank you, Raw Fitness. I've been I've been going down to the gym in Gasparillo, and so grateful that that is an option. I must say the players that we have mentioned, I'm not at their level right now. So,
But they're going to force you to be sooner or later.
well, that's the thing.
They're going to push you.
They're raising the bar. And athletes who have continued training continue to raise the bar. My training has been off and on, and I have been, muscle memory, let's go, because all of these the travel for 3 months totally threw off any sort of training. I did what I could, but climate change, diet change, I'm now getting acclimatized to being in Trinidad again. My body is has no idea what's going on. But it's something that obviously I just need to keep working at. And I'm grateful that because we've been observing certain restrictions as we have, that we're able to. I know a lot of people along my journey are saying, you can go to the gym, you can do this. And I know that we're really focused on the things that we can't do right now, but there are a lot of things that we can.
I know that there's no retirement plans for the sport of rugby in your mind right now. But having done this scholarship and what you're into now, have you set any long-term goal in what area, you're going to be focusing on whenever that time comes that you will say, okay, I've done my part in rugby on the field, I'm going to retire now and I want to go forward in what direction? Because as you said, the scholarship wasn't just about teaching you about rugby, it's all wrong sports. So it's a wide range that you can look at.
So I think that within Trinidad and Tobago, as sport, we run into the same things, right? We have the same issues. Rugby has my heart, and I want to continue with rugby. The opportunities afforded to me by the Unstoppables campaign and the work that World Rugby is doing, I'm very excited, and seeing how each year there's another phase rolled out. So now we've had 3 of our girls apply to be a part of the Unstoppables campaign officially, and looking forward to finding out about that. As far as a union, it's to promote those successes and those stories within the union. So at a World Rugby level or Rugby America's North level, there is a lot of support and promotion. However, locally, I would like to continue to do that specific to Trinidad and Tobago. So we already have infrastructure for the women that has been given to us, which is great, and continuing to promote the women within Trinidad and Tobago. But I would like to also say, all right, if this is offered for the women, then let's match something for the men as well.
Okay.
So
they wouldn't say you're biased?
Well, no one wants to be considered biased. People do have biases. But I think that it's very important within Trinidad and Tobago that we make sure that we are helping, supporting both the women's and the men's program. In other areas of the world where the men's program has been strongly attached to the history of the sport in the country, they have a stronger footing than perhaps our men's program here. Now, yes, we were very male-focused for a long time. But the boys who are coming up to play now, that wasn't their story. That's not their experience. And I think that we need to focus on our players that we have now. And again, like I said, within long-term athlete development, look at each segment and where someone is in their journey at each time, and understand that you need to support that. One of the things with playing, because that's where I came from, I wanted to be able to play. That was what I wanted to do. And if I saw something that was restricting my playing ability, I wanted to know how I could help to ease whatever the restriction was, right? One of the reasons that I actually want to continue to play is because there's a lot more that I get to see as a player. Now, my objectives as a player may be different than my objectives in an administrative position, depending on what that is. However, if as an administrator, I want to be relevant to the playing population, then it's important that I'm aware of what are the experiences that our players are having. On paper, this requirement, this funding, it's one thing. But how do our players feel when they go to training? How do they feel when they go into competition? How do our clubs integrate? How do they interact with each other? What are the parents doing? Are they coming with their children? Are they leaving them? What is happening at a community level? And I think that is what gives rugby the strength to be coming up on 100 years, which is a huge milestone that I'm excited to celebrate. And I want to move into the future with that as the focus. We didn't even get to talk about my thesis, but it was a huge focus of my thesis is community. I did a case study which was specific, but of course, the data that I collected can be transferred and applied into different cases. And I think that moving forward, focusing on that community and what it means will be what helps to promote rugby into the future, however it comes.
Well, you know, we miss you for basically year after year. People haven't seen you. Now that you are back, you know, I'm giving you the opportunity now to talk to the rugby fraternity, the supporters, and all anything that you would like to say to them, and also to those who have viewed you on Scoreboard. So, the remaining 3 minutes and 11 seconds is all yours.
I would really say thank you for the full 3 minutes. I'm so grateful for the support of the Scoreboard viewers, for the rugby community, the sport community in Trinidad and Tobago, and I know that this show is watched outside of Trinidad and Tobago as well. One of the most heartfelt things that I experienced when I was away is there have been people, and you know who you are, who have reached out that I didn't expect to hear from. Just to check in, to see how I was going, to send me a link, to let me know about a course that was happening. Those interactions were so important and helped me to feel connected while I was away, particularly when I was trying to come home and it was not looking like it was going to happen. So I want to thank everyone that has come along with this journey and know that I do consider you as being part of this journey with me. And I'm very excited to be home now so that the things we've talked about, the things we've wished for, the things we said, oh, you know, when we can do this, it's going to be different. I'm just so grateful that I'm here now so that we can start to realize those things. So thank you.
Well, viewers, we have come to the end of another edition of Scoreboard, and I can tell you that she'll be here regular now. We're back to where we were before. And we want to thank you again for the support in 2020. And we look forward to your support again in 2021. We hope that things will change. Restrictions will be lifted. Sports will be back out there. So we can be back out there on the field of play with you all, you know, bringing all the action and everything into your homes. And as we said, this, in the meantime, be safe. You know, adhere to the restrictions and everything going to be okay. So again, thank you, viewers. Maria, welcome back.
Thank you.
You know we miss you.
Yes.
Right? We know we miss you a lot.
I've missed everyone as well.
So see you next week, same time, same channel, and she'll be right here next week.
Remember to sanitize.
Yes, sanitize. So see you next week.
Thank you.